Hey, my name is PolishLynx, welcome to the irae, Amantes, amentes. The staircase is here, so let's go, right? The castle above me burst apart, spreading across the heavens and taking the shape of a giant magical circle. I knew well enough what the opening of the X swastika meant. The thing was trying to emanate to the outside of this town, to the outside world, to paint the entire universe anew in its own color. I would not allow it. I clutched Shiro's body even tighter in my arms. He would never move again, or speak, and neither would Kasumi or Honjo. His body was still warm, yet it was empty inside. The castle had swallowed everything that constituted him. I was too enraged to speak. I looked up to see a smiling Einherjar looking at me from above with narrowed golden eyes and the battalion of three at his side. I wasn't gonna let Shiro become cannon fodder for these assholes. No way in hell. I'd save him, no matter what. I hoped he'd at least let me make that one promise. I'd send them back to hell where they all belonged. My body changed as I unleashed my bloodlust. I let go of the reins restricting my consciousness, forgetting everything and turning into the ultimate blade that sought only vengeance. Tears? Promises? I could hear nothing. I was the cause of it all. Everything happened because of my presence. Kasumi's family, Shiro, this whole city. Had I not been here, nothing would have happened. Me not knowing my place and seeking only my own happiness resulted in nothing but senseless bloodshed. I had to pay for what I've done. There was no place for outsiders here anymore. It was time for the very cause of this tragedy, me and those two bastards to clash and put an end to everything. I could regret and apologize all I wanted, but it was already too late. And so the best I could do was make sure nothing like this would ever happen again. Carcraft. Reinhard Heydrich. I couldn't allow those two to exist. I wouldn't acknowledge a world where they survived. If I was but a tool of their creation, then I would answer their wishes, delivering to them the unknown they so coveted. An absolute and certain death. Stairs made of the bones of the dead descended from the magical circle in the sky. They were the steps leading to Valhalla. Well, I need to pour some water for myself now. And because it's dark, it needs a lot of concentration to not spill anything onto the desk. Okay, should be fine. Okay, I glared at the villain standing at its top. I don't think he will probably wait for. Driven by the surge of an unbridled rage, I dashed up these steps at an ungodly speed.
よい殺意だ。戦場とはこうでなくてはならん。
Up in the haze beyond the clouds, Reinhardt gazed down upon the mortal world with a tender smile on his lips. Sonnenkind unfastened the final chains binding the castle. The Lord of the Dead, the absolute supreme being of the cosmos, took a step in the mortal world.
では先日の続きといこうか。あれから何が変わったのか見せてくれ。
This was a perfect reenactment of the trek through hell that Isaac had initiated. The spot in the sky was the throne, and to reach it one had to conquer 3 layers of hell. Nibelheim, Muspelheim, Midgard. Reinhardt has long coughed out in the wind, solemnly parted his lips. Ever same command as before.
加減無用だ。楽しませろ。
His peerless champions of the dead, the battalion 3 obeyed. Will be 3 on 1?
私は願う。どうか遠くへ。死神をどうか遠くへ行ってほしい。
The first to answer his order was the Irrationality, the fastest being under the sun.
私はまだ老いていない。性に溢れているのだから、どうかお願い。触らないで。
The disordered and confused craving aligned itself to perfection the very instant it was graced by the girl's words. His mind was too broken beyond repair, yet it was precisely at this state that he could unleash his true power.
美しく繊細なものよ。恐れることはない。手を伸ばせ。我は汝の友であり、奪うために来たのではないのだから。
The antimony of rejection and desiring the touch of another, with the contradiction pointed out by Trifa, remaining unsolved, he acted out the two rules as one, an undertaking as hopelessly mad as his own broken mind. Such was the engine that fueled his inhuman speed. No one could catch him, and so he, capable of catching all, was indeed a mixed alloy forged of death and the maiden. He who fled and he who captured, unable to even ascertain its own sex. The whirlwind of chaos bared his fangs with a furious hunger.
彼ほど真実に誓いを守った者はなく、彼ほど誠実に契約を守った者もなく、彼ほど純粋に人を愛した者はない。
But considering how it goes, I'm kinda surprised that it was not Machina who answered first. Because of obvious reasons. The Crimson Knightess came second, singing the aria in her usual matter-of-the-fact tone. For on the other hand he might believe in the win of that one person and that he will find him as the last one and bring his defeat. The orders of her lord and master meant everything to her. She would carry out all his commands without a second's hesitation. Her crimson pyres would devour the approaching rebel.
だが彼ほど全ての誓いと全ての契約、全ての愛を裏切った者もまたいない。
Passionate love that scourged her from within, this zealous faith in her master manifested itself as an all-devouring conflagration.
死よ、死の幕引きこそ唯一の救い。
While the somber knight of impregnable iron silently trembled, for his motions, thought to be long dead, stirred alive once more.
この毒に汚れ、蝕まれた心臓が動きを止める。忌まわしき毒も傷も跡形もなく消え去るように。
He could feel his whole heart beat again. The Iron Giant rejoiced at the unbending of his full power, feeling a certain kind of kinship with the trace of deep-rooted emotion drifting in the air.
この開いた傷口、癒えぬ病巣を見るがいい。
That is right. You should not forgive him, Isaac. A fool to be felled, the source to be vanquished. If you truly detest him with every fiber of your being, then channel more power into your heart. You may use my creed and lifeless carcass to your heart's content.
滴り落ちる血の雫を、全身に巡る呪詛の毒を、武器を取れ、剣を突き刺せ、深く深く塚まで通れと。
This iron fist shall close the curtains on all that the obsidian Mercury had wrought.
ああ、恐れるな、怖がるな。誰も汝を傷つけない。我が腕の中で愛しいものよ。永劫安らかに眠るがいい。
The resulting force field absorbed all energy in the air with rumbling creaks, intensifying the heat ever further.
我はこの荘厳なるバルハラを燃やし尽くすものとなる。
The world would soon bear witness to the full prowess of the obsidian table's indomitable Einherjar.
さあ、騎士たちよ。
They all faced that approaching avatar of fury.
罪人にその苦悩もろともとどめを刺せば、思考の光はおのずからその上に照り輝いて降りるだろう。
The final hour for Ragnarok drew nigh.
ブリア
The collective roar of the three demigods pierced the world.
ニブルヘイム・フェンリスボル
ブスペルヘイムレーラテイン
ミズガルス・ボルツンゲサガ
A storm of utter devastation swept across the cosmos. The main actors, the supporting cast, the sacrifices all had been assembled upon the stage. Their long-awaited day wore off, had dawned amidst a torrential surge of passion and zeal. In that very instant, Crimson Pyre surrounded the stairway to the throne, eliminating oxygen. It was longing for no place to hide. The canvas of the sky turned to one colossal furnace. It would mercilessly scorch all in its path without exception, its raging hellfire of inescapable death, never faltering, never waning.
これを人前で見せるのは初めてだ。光栄に思え小僧。貴様の気概、貴様の力、認め剣を抜いてやったのだ。失望させてくれるなよ。
Eleanor's world manifested in the form of an inferno. Her blazing gale, rivaling the heat of freshly erupted lava, represented the crimson nightness, ardent craving to forever burn the passionate luster of her lord.
共に波動だ。力比べといこう。私の魂を凍らせることなど誰にもできんぞ。
Eleanor looked down upon the man as he plunged into her world. The effective range of her weapon, while she too had already entered Rand's world, there was no longer any hint of stagnation visible on her demeanor. And the same was equally true for the other two. For the two others, okay? Okay, can you shut up? Schreiber flew down the steps with a ferocious call, always one step ahead of Ren in terms of speed. Eleanor's fire scorched him live, yet the crimson blood pouring from his right eye stood testament to the boundless nature of his inner legion. As long as he commanded it, he would regenerate even from the gravest of injuries, forever dashing onwards at an inhuman speed. The somber night shattered the flames around him with a heavy fist. Contrary to Schreiber, he cruelly descended the stairs with the wave of a lump of iron, his lips completely sealed. And that's good. It would have been next to impossible to shatter the entirety of Eleanor's creation figment, but he would at least momentarily destroy the fiery space surrounding him. He considered the impending battle to be sacred, and would allow for no interference. For his craving hadn't weakened in the slightest. Rand's word had no effect on any of the battalion commanders. Impossible. Even amidst his blending fury, Ren couldn't help but feel thoroughly astonished. He gazed at Schreiber, closing in on him like a shooting star in utter amazement. Watching over the unfolding spectacle, Eleanor smirked.
誤解させたようですまなかったな。先日の不甲斐なさを詫びさせてもらおう。あれは我々にとっても不本意だった。これが私たちの全力だよ。
With the opening of the 8th swastika, they had all reached their respective peaks, combined with Reinhardt's own blessing through the emanation of his castle. In a way, the two were on the absolute degree. The situation might have turned out differently had this been a one-on-one confrontation, but with all three attacking him at the same time, not even Ren's hegemony possessed the power to halt them.
不動のままである方が良かったな。分散させては落ちる。薄い。まあ、もっとも。
She paused and directed her will at the space before her, collapsing upon itself with a condensed explosion as it molded into a spear.
それではそのけだものに甲子園か。
A spear carrying the heat of a volcanic eruption shot towards Ren. Schreiber too was right before his eyes. The crimson nightness projectile overtook Machina, aiming to scour and outside the rabid beast. It aligned with Schreiber's position, completely vanishing from Ren's side. A blind spot. Schreiber dodged it a split second before it impaled him. Wearing him down through the hegemon's influence was the only way to harm a beast, considering his constant avoidance of another touch through his own craving. And that, albeit unplanned, turned out to be a brilliant cooperative maneuver. The spear crashed into Ren's chest and exploded, completely incinerating the young man inside out. He had no time to even scream in pain. After dodging the spear, Schreiber changed his direction midair and fell right into the young man's neck. Ren used one of his blades to cover the weak spot in the spur of the moment, but that was not enough to neutralize the full brunt of the blow, which ultimately sent him tumbling up the stairs. Up the stairs? What? How? Okay, never mind. Where Machina was already waiting for him, his arm fist soared through the air, extinguishing all flames in its wake. Ren dodged it sideways, escaping with his life by a hair's breadth, but in that very moment a volley of burning spears showered him from above like a downpour. There were no gaps in their defense. The laugh that caressed his ears was one of the ridicule and jubilation. Indeed, she must have been quite happy with herself. The one to create this situation had no doubt been Eleanor. The Battalion of Three would never cooperate, but she, a sniper with the eyes of the hawk, used the other two for her designs with perfect precision. On the other hand, Mackin and Schreiber deserved to be commended for being able to keep up her strategy. Eleanor cared little for the safety of her comrades. As proof, the flames of Muspelheim swept up everyone in their fury onslaught without distinction. She did not care whether or not her comrades perished. Yet they were all too capable to be used as mere sacrificial pawns. And even that was all part of her calculations. Such inhumanity, such boldness and sheer insight. They were all champions like no other. They had mastered the art of survival and killing with utmost perfection, becoming guiding stars upon the field of battle. They had discussed nothing in advance, yet existed in perfect sync with each other. The last 60 years they had spent killing each other in the castle were not without meaning. Blood and corpses for their bond, harder than any steel.
何やら身に余る評価を受けているように思えるが、少し訂正してやろう。
Eleanor contorted her half-burned face as she observed Ren struggling with Mackin and Schreiber, under attack by a downpour of projectiles. Being able to finally unleash her true power had indeed filled her with elation.
こんな場所を戦場に選んだ貴様が迂闊なだけなのだよ。まあ、何にせよ、引きずり込む気ではあったがね。足場が限られている。空は飛べまい。では、その刃どうやって私に届かせる？力ずくで突破するには、いささか以上に無理があると思わんかね。
The staircase of the dead was far too narrow to allow ample movement for two adults, nor was it an effective place to utilize superior speed. Instant transmission? Schreiber dashed through the sky using the ripples in the air caused by the explosions as his footing. Ren could probably attempt the same tactic, but being one step behind in speed, he would only end up instantly getting knocked down towards the ground. And under these circumstances, it was the other warrior who appeared the more fearsome of the two. The Sombre Knight, launching punch after punch in complete silence, with each blow rivaling an aerial bombardment in terms of power. Getting through him would be nigh impossible. He miscalculated his approach, foolishly leaping straight to the jaws of death more or less out of his own volition. Or did he? Did his anger blind him to the extent that he'd failed to realize something so blatantly obvious? No, that was not the case.
孫子ではないがね、勝敗は前もって決まっているのだよ。くだらん干渉など捨ててしまえばよかったもの。それほどまでにあのちっぽけな修練を壊されるのが嫌だったのか。
Ren knew full well that this place amounted to certain death, yet he still couldn't allow himself to fight on the ground.
友人の亡骸にもはや魂が宿っておらぬことは知っているだろう。ならば肉が燃やされたからといって何だという。
Oh, you shouldn't have said that. I heard that we're feeling.
そしてそれはシャンバラしかり。すでに誰も残っておらん。皆黄金に溶けている。残骸。残骸だよ。死体に過ぎん。戦士ならばそんなものにすがりつくな。死者しか抱けぬものなどヘドが出る。ああ。 私はそういう輩に虫唾が走る性分なのだよ。
Eleanor summoned another fiery projectile, whatever. Her cheek smile colored by a hint of anger, and so her agony bolstered the flames of all devouring conflagration even further.
死体ならば燃やし尽くす。同窓はこのまま万象灰となり果てればいい。
Okay, with that I kinda can agree.
ダビデとシビラの予言のごとくだ。ディエスイレを歌ってくれ。貴様はもとよりそのためだけの楽器であろうが。
Her tone and features showed not a sliver of change, yet the flames of incandescent fury had indeed lit up within her chest.
泣けよ。貴様の慟哭はぬるすぎるのだ。
A giant fireball, like the flames of hell itself, shot at Ren at an inconceivable speed. At the same time, Muspelheim's conflagration reached its limit, mentally setting Machina on fire. Even Schreiber, who dodged the attack at the last second, could not avoid the blaze as he landed. A nuclear explosion went off below the magical circle. Ren felt his entire body burn and he reduced to ash. Even Machina and Schreiber, who unlike Ren had avoided their heat, failed to escape the blast unscathed. That voice seriously gives me a headache. That's not true. Yet they were the immortal Einherjar, even in the face of an explosion that decimated everything in the blink of an eye. The two warriors continued their relentless assault, enduring the pain while regenerating all the body parts they had lost to the flames. The approaching ashen light, the soaring summer face, the raging crimson flames. In the moment of absolute and impending death, Ren's time accelerated to such an extent that not even he was entirely conscious of it. The names of the people he lost. The childhood friends he spent more than a decade with. Did he cling to their corpses? Was he using them as an excuse to run away? Was anger merely an escape mechanism so he could avoid facing their truth? Despite boasting human speed, had he in fact been at a complete standstill all this time? They told him he couldn't protect anyone, and reality had taught him he could save no one. He grieved his own lack of power, and cursed his ignorance. Despite all, he still made an earnest oath to prove victorious no matter the cost. But how? Merely doing one's best wasn't going to be enough. That too was something he'd been told by someone before. What thoughts flashed through his mind when he was told to flee and stay safe? Sadness, frustration, misery. He felt as if his entire existence had been declared to be of no great importance in the grand scheme of things. And now he did seem completely useless. Was that all he could accomplish? Was this truly the end? Ren leapt into the air with a howl. He had yet to try everything. Eleanor observed him with mixed admiration, contempt and jubilation. She found the spectacle marvelous and would have considered it most unfortunate to have it end here on such a low note.
七でこそさらなる七。ああ、正解だよ。英雄とはそういうものだ。力が足りなければただの間抜けに過ぎんがね。
Her biting remark was not without a sliver of truth. There was the realm of the rabid beast. Schreiber launched into the air using Machina's fist as a springboard. He lost his leg for having come into contact with that instrument of absolute annihilation, but he paid it no heed. He tore off the chains of eternal stagnation through sheer strength alone. No one besides the gold could bend him, and he could catch up with Ren even if he accelerated to the speed of light. Even while being boiled alive, the sole eye of the rabid beast, starved for carnage and destruction, would never let its prey out of sight. Ren put his all into meeting that whirlwind. The blades on his back fluttered like wings, assaulting his foe at the peak of his speed. Yet still they failed to land a hit. Time and again he would evade the boy still, suffering no injuries whatsoever. In that 1,000th of a millisecond, Trevor evaded over 100 deadly strikes. His agility to move me there at pretty much imperceptible speed had gone beyond ludicrous. Trevor ripped out the bigger half friends left thick as they passed each other. They were part of his band that would have been critical for a counterattack. This was no coincidence.
こいつ
He was a predator through and through, regardless of what state his mind was in. Hunting was just another form of filling his stomach, and as such, his instincts would never allow him to fail at bringing down his prey. Trevor was both faster and more experienced. They could have fought for 1,000 years, and the situation would have not changed at all. Still, that did not mean he could let his guard down. He would still always choose the best and most effective way to end his prey. The rabid beast's instincts turned it into a one-track machine of slaughter. Trevor changed his trajectory again and landed forward from both in an upside-down position. The young man had no time to dodge. Realizing that in an instant he chose to meet the Russian knight head-on, perhaps he could catch him in the moment he temporarily lacked his offense. A dapplessly naive thought. Oh, shut up! He screamed like never before. It was the genuine roar of a feral beast. Trevor, seeing through the intentions of his prey in a heartbeat, chose the most effective way to deal with it. His whole, potent enough to shatter Wilhelm's Rose's assaulted ranks, eardrums with demonic ferocity, tearing them to shreds and sending his mind to momentarily confusion. Blood gushed forth from Rain's head as he plummeted downwards, only to be met by an opponent that hardly needed description. There was no one more worthy to deliver the final blow. The fallen hero stood there, still, stalwart, and impregnable, his fist surrounded by a demonic force that warmed the very air around them.
行くぞ
Ren was a mess of broken bones and drawn flesh. Muspelheim's incessant hellfire scorched Machina just the same, but he paid it no heed. It was like it failed to hurt him. He did certainly feel the heat. The battle on 3 were all equal in strength, and not even the Iron Warrior could endure the Crimson Nightmare's ultimate weapon indefinitely. If this endured, Machina too would eventually fall. He would prolong his life by destroying the flames around him, or perhaps kill Lenore altogether. But he chose to do neither.
兄弟俺に唯一無二の終焉をくれ
He prioritized defeating Ren above all else. His long-sought-after desire lay beyond that outcome, which meant that to him no other option was truly available. He did not mind being burned or reduced to ashes. He had no love for the blood of a cursed machine. All that mattered was his soul. All he had to protect was his honor. He had to face his greatest foe before he lost his conviction of being himself, to catch up to the end he had missed. As such, he channeled his entire being into his fists and
共に真のバルハラへ行こう
But a split second before, his all-ending fist could crush into Ren's chest.
終わりだ。
Eleanor knew the young man's death to be unavoidable at this point.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Even the maddened beast, through sheer instinct, could tell that his prey would soon perish. And of course, Machina had been just as convinced of the finality his next attack would deliver. He channeled all his emotions into solemn silence, mentally uttering his farewells to his sworn nemesis. However,
どう見るカールよ
Reinhardt smiled. His golden gaze gleamed not with scorn towards a defeated warrior, but with genuine anticipation. The shade of Mercury answered with the same kind of nuance in his laugh. The girl reached out to the falling young man.
藤井君
Rhea continued her prayer from within the crucible of the castle. Moments before Machina's all-ending fist would eradicate both my body and soul, the only thing burning my heart was an adamant refusal to give up. I didn't want to die. Like hell, I could die now. I let up until I sent all these assholes to Kingdom Come. She left everything to me. Kimura believed me, and I had no choice but to win. I had long passed the stage where complaining or giving up was still an option. I hadn't the slightest intention to lose, and to prove it, the rules of my creation pigment were still active, extending this moment to an eternity. I could dodge this. It definitely wasn't impossible for me to evade this punch and continue the fight. However, what was I supposed to do afterwards? I placed everything I had on the line, and I still stood no chance. I couldn't even imagine a way to break through those three. I was exactly bemoaning my fate, but I needed something to fill me with new strength. My power was infinite, so I couldn't waste it, unless I figured out a way to end the entire battle with my next counterattack. I'd probably end up losing even if I escaped this particular situation with my life. But that was one thing I couldn't possibly choose. If my craving emanated, it would ultimately turn the world into a place worse than hell. Back when I rescued Himura from the castle, it was that very fact that put me back to the realm of sanity as my final tethered on the brink of going berserk. In that moment I learned everything, about the so-called throne, about domination, about the true identities of Warcraft and myself, as well as what would happen if my craving emanated. As such, I couldn't possibly choose the path, that path. It would destroy the very reason why I fought Einherjar, and end up merely painting over one hell with another. Shiro didn't sacrifice his life for something like that. Himura didn't muster her courage for me to leave that world in ruins. Neither Kazumi nor Honjo nor the Obsidian Table members that sacrificed themselves wished for anything of the kind. I had to find a way to grant them release. I, as a man who had failed to protect everything he held dear, had to at least find a way to save and grant their souls some form of respite. But where could I find such a path? I suddenly heard Mari's voice ring in my ears. We both thought that to be the case. We were both tormented by the same guilt, the same tendency to wallow in self-denial. And that was why I covered my ears. Why did I want to get her involved? Had I made a mistake by severing my connection with Mari, fearing she would only end up tainted by my foolishness? I couldn't defend a world of eternal stagnation. It was easily worse than any other hell I could imagine. I didn't want her to see it. I didn't want her to know about it. I didn't want Mari to see through me, only to find herself disillusioned. I couldn't allow her to be tainted anymore. My Atziluch encompassed the worst nightmare imaginable, a horrific aspiration of condensed selfishness, an abomination that would change all around into phantasms. I myself wished to become the ephemeral moment, and to achieve that I would have frozen all life around me to an unmoving, lifeless picture. I would marvel at it, I would adore it, an aspiration belonging to the vilest god in existence. It wasn't something I wished for her to see. She was the only one worthy of the throne. Be it Reinhardt, Mercurius, or me, all we could bear were demented hellscapes, built from people's worst nightmares. As such, it would have probably been for the best for us, the three catastrophic stooges, to disappear from the face of the earth, but...
Senpai.
She could mock me all she wanted, but I wished to share my life with her. Yet my final was far from enough, and unleashing my Atziluch was entirely out of the question. I no longer knew what I had to do to save all those poor souls in the castle. I could no longer wipe her tears. I felt myself the most despicable man in existence. I certainly lived up to my name as Carcraft's substitute. Even though I just admitted that, why did she still? Why did she still insist on reaching out towards me? I saw how you cried and suffered. I heard how you condemned yourself in a trembling voice. I wasn't the only one whose emotions leaked through the rift. Her feelings were like an open book to me. There was no need for her to force herself or to try and act so composed. Who was she trying to fool? Who was to blame for this? The fool ignoring her all this time had finally removed his evil locks. That was why she put on such a desperate act. An amazing display of tenacity for sure. And her acting was quite something too, but it just wasn't working. She had yet to learn how to read the mood. And the thought of it made my heart sink like never before.
言ったでしょ抱きしめたいって。
That sounds so bad, for kind and resolute on the surface, but crying on the inside.
一人ぼっちじゃ手も握れないよ。そんなレンに私なってほしくない。みんなもきっとそう思ってるよ。
Everyone I allowed to slip through my fingers. And the last person I swore never to let go.
あ
Humor was right.
あ、悪い癖だったな。
I understood that. More than I would have liked to. Sure hit me like a billion times, reiterating the same thing. And now through Mari, I could tell how painful it felt for the person on the other end. They both acted as mirrors for me. Sure gave his life to provide me with a way into Valhalla. I couldn't allow myself to fail here. I knew that better than anyone, and yet...
教えて。レンの願いを。
Did she not see who I was? Did she truly wish to tarnish herself with my craving? She told me she wanted to embrace me, but...
それを全部包みたいから。
All and everything. My promise to claim all that I allowed to slip through my grasp, and with that I finally realized that similarly to how the information flowed to me through my connection with the throne, it reached me as well through her connection with me. She had probably learned everything. When Mercury found himself captivated by our brawl to such an extent that his gaze completely left her side. Her eyes opened to the truth, she was hurt by it, and ultimately made the decision. In order to guide our actions to provide a solution, she willingly accepted a cruel, thankless role. Her soul had told me everything I could understand without words. In that case, how was I supposed to answer her? Merely doing one's best wasn't going to be enough. What thoughts flashed through my mind when I was told to flee and stay safe? Sadness, frustration, misery. He felt as if his entire existence had been declared to be one of no great importance in the grand scheme of things. All I wanted was for my loved ones to smile. I didn't want their expression to cloud over because of me. I wished for Mari to smile. I wished to live with her humor.
助けてほしい。
My heart cried out with pure, earnest intentions,
力を貸してほしい。
hoping for this tragedy to never be repeated.
信じさせてほしい。
Reality had no place for phantasms. We could ever only be men. And women. We shouldn't have aspired to be more than that. To remain an ephemeral moment, to protect and cherish its brilliance.
手を伸ばす勇気をくれ。
だったら。
Her voice was gentle like a mother's.
俺は、
I felt myself in the goddess embrace.
俺たちは二度と負けない。
I could now believe in that with the entirety of my heart and soul. And at that moment, the ultimate form of transcendence, the apotheosis of all thoughts and emotions swept across the entire cosmos.
バカな。
A scene too absurd to be believed unfolded right before Eleanor's eyes. The young man had received the full brunt of the somber night's all-ending attack, the creation figure of Deus Ex Machina, yet he refused to go down. And on top of that, her arms, legs and fingers grew rigid, consumed by the stagnation of time. Little by little she found herself unable to move. The battalion 3 shrugged off the final with ease mere moments before, yet now even they stood, nigh powerless, before its terrible shackles. Cold and ruthless like ice, yet warm like passionate embers, the tale of transcendence and the legend of millions to the gallows. And you see, he wasn't at his full power as well before.
お前たちは逃げたんだ。
and the guillotine in question was wielded by the princess and her itinerant executioner. Their decree would not offer a single phantasm to say.
耐えられなかったんだろう。現実に生きることが。
They couldn't find it in themselves to live as ephemeral moments, as mere flashes of light doomed to fade, like the rest of mankind. Whether or not it happened through their own wishes, they all became phantasms shackled to everlasting death, choosing then to sever those very chains, to offer one final requiem to those forever trapped in their graves.
俺たちは永遠になれない。幻想になったお前たちは、結局今でも何をしても、その手に掴むことができないんだ。
The Ashen Knight was the first to react to the decreed sentence. Oh no, no, not that voice. His voice gives me a headache today. Actually, I have a headache already, so it just makes it a little bit worse. So you did run away. Inside, he birthed through the antimonious fusion of Dave and the Maiden. His madness would not acknowledge the decrees of anyone but the gold. He tore off his own frozen limbs, turning into a whirlwind of fangs. He's retarded. Okay, that's not even a language, man. His body refused to regenerate, his limbs remained missing, and above all else, the source of his obsession, the legend dwelling within his right eye, remained completely silent. He finally seemed to have run out of fuel, and without it, Anna Schreiber was but a brittle maiden. Only one question swirled his broken mind as the guillotine blade went for his neck. Why? Why did it all happen in such convenient timing? Did he make a mistake somewhere? He's endured base roses, he's endured Samuel's cannon. Nibelheim should have been without boundaries, he should have been able to soar faster than anyone for all eternity. Why did everything fall apart in this moment? What could have been the cause of it? As his thoughts in their madness traversed back to the past, he suddenly found himself staring into the reason behind it all. If only he hadn't met that man there, he would have remained an indomitable Einherjar. Please? The blade of execution claimed his head. The galley it left during its journey through the air felt oddly warm, as if trying to gently envelop him. Wolfgang Schreiber's head, severed from its neck, lanced in the sky every moment he realized his true craving for the first time in his life. Eleanor howled at the top of her lungs, focusing all her will upon the space before her. So what if stagnation shackled her limbs, rage blinded her to it? A most deplorable falsehood, what she deemed utterly unforgivable. The fire burning in her chest was neither fantasy nor illusion. It was he who clothed himself in illusions, he who lived his life like a shadow, and so it was no longer his puppet that seemed closest to the brittle unreality of a dream, indeed, and phantoms true and true. As such, she firmly refused to acknowledge his words. She would not allow anyone to deny the purity of the flame she pledged to the impregnable gold. She simply couldn't. The conflagration of Muspelheim condensed all fell upon the executioner like a colza blade. A cannonball she channeled all her mighty pride, her very soul into. No one could evade it, no one could withstand it. However, well, you can always try reaching for the blade that you so were telling how amazing you are with. It rose to a lump of ice and fell completely harmless before reaching her full. The sight conveyed the terrible truth that Eleanor's plea had paled in comparison to Ren's. Impossible, inconceivable. She rejected the notion of her entire being, fixing her eyes on the impending blade of execution with seething indignation. But the moment the boy's freezing stagnation reached up to the neck, a memory flashed through her turbulent mind. The sensation of a biting numbness on her left cheek. Boom, baby! A complete blunder, the most disgraceful fight of her life. How she could have failed to dodge that sorry excuse for an attack baffled Eleanor still. Regardless of what others claimed, filthy would forever remain filthy. Much like flames would remain flames. However, never before in her life had Eleanor experienced the humiliation of being unable to rebuke an accusation. That uncertainty left an irreparable wound on her soul. The anxiety that it could happen again infected her mind. And that very anguish proved to be the agent of her second disgrace. There was nothing else that could have caused it. That accursed Brenner had certainly outdone herself this time. An outcome so infuriating, Eleanor could not help wishing to have another fight with the shameless nun. She could have been more than tired of their incessant clashes, yet their bickering was likely there to stay for as long as either of them still drew breath. Eleanor von Wittenberg's severe head danced in the air with a wisp of smoke escaping through the slits of her right smile. Only one remained. However, two utterly bewildering phenomena occurred. Machina moved. The moment Ren entered his effective range, a fist of absolute destruction was launched at him with a nary hint of the deceleration. The decree that bound both the Crimson Knights and the Ashenite had no effect on the sober giant whatsoever. But at the same time, Ren also seized his fists. In short, they now were equally in danger. The souls couldn't escape their mutual bond of parity. Machina uttered not a single word. He realized everything without the need to point it out, understanding that this would end up being their final clash. He cared little about his ultimate attack being shrugged off. That outcome might have seemed an utter impossibility to anyone of sane mind, and yet for some reason he felt that this was how things were meant to transpire. He could not contain a self-derisive smile. He had declared his battles to be the final crusade numerous times now, and each time it was as if his adversary had been telling him of the causal relationship of the two. It should have been impossible, but it was not beyond imagination. The information flowing to him from the young man caused Machina to be overcome by a premonition of sorts, and he would convey it all back to him with his fists. Machina wondered, did the older, his former brother-in-arms, remember? In a different time, he apparently told him something definitive, and its results seemed to be bearing fruit right in front of his eyes, a notion worthy to be called a maddened delusion, yet he felt it to be the truth. And it would pave the way towards a conclusion both fitting and final, for both of them. A certain kind of conviction lit up Machina's withered heart. He felt with absolute certainty that the true end was nigh. Therefore, he retained his unwavering composure despite the advent of a second aberration. A sea of shadows exploded beneath Ren's feet. It was another embodiment of stagnation, Rusalka Schweglin's most powerful technique. The two occurrences surprised by only Ren, with Machina faltering not an inch, and yet... It was Machina's severed head that shot into the air. He had at once shuddered her Nazarer with ease, yet in the midst of the final exchange between evenly matched opponents, even a millisecond's delay would translate to certain death. And Einherjar took control of their Einherjar. It was the final display of prideful stubbornness from a witch whose soul had been crushed by a certain summon to open the sixth swastika. Machina remained silent, yet the features of his severed head a turning frozen blue mask of triumph. In that split second, Ren stopped to ponder. So you have, or rather, you two have.